Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to day 21 of the holiday card series. I'm going to be using the Dreaming Mini Shaker stamp and die set from Art Impressions today. I really love that this stamp set is clear and that it comes with a mini action wobble as well as the die that you need to cut out the entire image. So it has everything you need. I'm going to be stamping the image in VersaFine Onyx Black ink onto some Arches watercolor paper. This is cold press paper, so it is quite textured. I'm using a mini MISTI tool to aid me while I stamp this because I am going to need to stamp it twice. There were some areas and lines that, because of the texture of the paper, just were not solid, and I anticipated that that would be the problem, so that's why I'm using my MISTI tool. Otherwise, I would have just used a regular stamp press or a stamping block. And because that VersaFine is a pigment ink and it takes a little time to dry, and because I'm very impatient, I decided to go ahead and just coat the black ink with some clear embossing powder. This is Ranger Clear Embossing Powder, and I'm going to heat set that until it's nice and melted and everything has turned back to its original black color. And then I can move on with the rest of my project here. I've taped it down to a board using some blue painter's tape, and I'm going to do some watercoloring with my Mijello Mission Gold watercolor set. And because I did that heat embossing, it's really going to aid me as I watercolor because it's going to help the color stay within the confines of that stamping. So I'm going to speed up the video process and turn on some music, and I will catch up with you after the painting is finished. So after I was done with painting, I used my heat tool to quickly dry my project. You could definitely let that air dry if you'd like. And then I used that die that came with the set, and I used that to cut out the shape using my Big Shot. So I'm going to be creating a circle card today, so I folded some craft cardstock or Desert Storm cardstock in half, And then I just let that circle die kind of hang off the end just a little bit off the fold while I run it through my Big Shot machine. I'm going to use the Mama Elephant window watching die set as well. I'm going to die cut that window shape out of some Nina Solar White cardstock. And this is going to create the scene of Santa and the kitty in the rocking chair in front of the window. And because I want this window to look like it's looking outside, I'm going to do some ink blending and create a sky scene. So I'm using the other half of that piece of paper that I used to die cut the window, and I've traced the basic shape of the window so that I have an idea of where the blending needs to happen. I'm using 3 different shades of distress ink as well as a mini round blending tool to blend on all of these colors. The first color I used was Faded Jeans, and now I'm using a Chipped Sapphire. And Chipped Sapphire is a really great, intense bluish purple. It has a little bit of a purple tint to it, so it really blends well going into darker shades. And to protect my project and my fingers from getting all inky, I just used a strip of Post-it tape and stuck that to my fingertips, and then I can move my fingertips around and hold my project down without the fear of any ink transferring to my fingertips and then my fingertips transferring the ink to places where I don't want it. So moving on to Black Soot, and that Chipped Sapphire really blends right into Black Soot really beautifully. I love this color combination. So I'm placing that window over the top just to get an idea of how it's going to look. And then I trimmed it down to the size that I needed that would fit behind the window. And I want the window to be standing up a little bit from that blended piece. So I'm going to cut a really narrow strip of foam tape. And then I'll add that to the outer frame of this window. And it's a really, really skinny area, but it's not too much of a hassle to cut out these little tiny strips because I know it's going to adhere just right. So I'll add those to the top and bottom and then press that down onto my blended piece of cardstock. So I'm going to add adhesive to the back of the window. I'm using some Tombow Extreme Adhesive, and I'll press that down onto my circle card. So the Santa is going to go over there on the side, but first I'm going to draw in some snowflakes. To some people it might look like stars, but for me it's snowflakes, especially considering the greeting that I'll be putting on this card. So I put a small layer of foam tape on the Santa and then adhere that down to the Action Wobbler. I did that because I wanted the Action Wobbler piece to stand up above the window and make sure it could still wiggle around quite a bit. So I prepped some Schoolhouse Red cardstock from Simon Says Stamp with an anti-static powder tool, and then stamped the greeting that says Dreaming of a White Christmas in Versamark ink. I sprinkled on some Hero Arts white embossing powder and then heat set that until it was smooth and melted. I then trimmed it down so that it was more of a strip, like a narrow strip. And then I held that to my card and turned the card over and traced the curve of that circle card. This is going to make it look like it's blending right in with the circle card base. So I'll use my scissors and cut out that curve. And then I'm also going to give the other end a ribbon shape. So I'm going to cut it off, have the length I want it to be. Then I'll do one cut in the center, and then from the corners meeting up with the end of that center cut. And that gives me the perfect ribbon end shape. I'm going to add some foam adhesive on the very end of that piece, and then I'll line it up with that edge of the circle card exactly where I had it before and make sure it lines up with the edge. And I'll just adhere that down. I'm almost done with the card. I'm just going to add a little bit of some dashed lines around the outside edge. I'm using a Uniball Signo Broad white gel pen for that. And that completes the card for today. I really love how it looks like Santa's rocking, and I love that I colored the cat to look like my 2 kitties, Sophie and Daphne. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'll be back with day 22 before you know it. Thanks for watching.